Hi, everybody. Welcome to Digital Visionaries, where we uncover how the most forward thinking leaders are building the future of digital experience. Today, we're speaking with Robbie Attard and Allen Rigby from NHP, a manufacturing and distribution brand that's redefining customer engagement. We're going to explore how Sitecore XM Cloud and Composable architectures are reshaping B2B digital journeys and what the next chapter in the manufacturing and distribution experience might look like. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me.
Sure.
Robbie, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been in IT all my life and been quite fortunate to work for some organisations that have really tried to leverage technology throughout my journey in terms of been here at NHP 9.5 years and sort of helped them through their digital transformation, and we're still going.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Alan, tell me a little bit about your role at NHP.
Thank you, Sean. So I've been with NHP for me up on 15 years now. I don't come from IT or digital. This is something which I've moved into as I've spent some time with the company. I started as an engineer. I spent a lot of time in sales, a lot of time in marketing. And then when we restructured to better support our digital transformation, I was approached and asked, as somebody who always had something to say about the website, would I like to own it? And I, of course, jumped at that.
Yeah, it's great to hear. Always nice to get that nice rounded experience before jumping into roles like this. Robbie, let's start with digital transformation at NHP, and how has this become a core business focus at your business?
It's certainly expanded from just being technology management, but it's certainly a much broader role now than what it is. A lot more around strategic leadership, business alignment, and innovation. We're quite fortunate at NHP that we've really been able to embrace the digital transformation, and technology really now has a big seat at the table in terms of driving business change from being just a service that once we're perceived at. So there's a lot more. Some of the key changes that I've been a part of over the 9 years I've been here is we've got a lot more strategic discussions early at the table, which is good from a technology perspective. And the initiatives are really focused now on business outcomes rather than just sort of implementing and managing the technology. And there's a real thirst at NHP for adopting new technologies, which is great.
And in terms of the actual product set as well, for folks to have a really good sense of the type of industry and business you're in, can you give us an outline of that space as well?
We are a Microsoft shop, so right across the board, we're a very heavy Dynamics user, both finance and operations and in the customer engagement systems. So, whilst we don't have thousands and thousands of seats like a lot of other customers, we use the product very broadly. Obviously with the Sitecore Composable suite that we're implementing now, they're probably our two key applications that we use that really sort of drive that customer experience and the fulfillment. So we use it quite broadly, and we're now really leveraging, I suppose, the composable benefits and the integration that we can between all of those systems.
Alan, Robbie mentioned there that focus on customer experience. How does that translate into meaningful change within a manufacturing and distributor context like you have at NHP?
As he was saying that, I was thinking that we're really focused on the digital customer experience as much as we are on other elements of our customer experience. And in that respect, Robbie and I are both very lucky that we don't have to work too hard to get executive support for initiatives, whether they're based on customer feedback or whether they're based on initiatives that we determined from our customer base that would be beneficial. So one of the things that I focus on is to open up the feedback loop and establish some feedback and communication from our customers, just to make sure that we know exactly what it is that they are finding valuable and that they need, so that we can deliver that. Adapt not only the digital customer experience, but also the entire omnichannel experience to suit that.
And what led NHP then at that point to choose Sitecore's composable stack? And I think, what role does XM Cloud play in your strategy as well?
We have been a fairly long-term Sitecore customer. And one of the things that we did do as we were going through our sort of digital transformation is one of the big projects we were implementing was a new PIM. And with the amount of products and the amount of data that we had to refactor, it was quite a big task. As well as that, we were looking to have to plan another Sitecore legacy upgrade. So we're sort of at the crossroads there for a while. So we sort of looked and sort of challenged ourselves on, well, how can we do this a little bit differently? Because some of the feedback we're getting from the business, well, you really haven't delivered any functions and features of really any value for quite some time. You're too busy underneath the iceberg instead of being on top of it. So we looked at ways that we could do that incrementally. So that obviously then we looked at the Composable suite. So how can we use that then to take pieces of a time, which you can, obviously with it being composable, and how we could deliver, I suppose, the tech uplift as well as delivering business value at the same time. And so, yeah, we sort of looked at that approach and we were able to put those pieces of the puzzle together that we've been able to do that. So we've been incrementally taking pieces of the Sitecore Composable suite, integrating it with the rest of the solution while still delivering business benefit. And XM Cloud's played a pretty large role in that because it really laid the foundation and set the foundations for us up. So where the marketing team could start to use the benefits of XM Cloud and take advantage of all of the functions and features that we now use as we continually sort of migrate in the back.
It's great to hear that focus on the customer experience, but also on the business outcomes that it's driving for NHP. For us, we're obviously technologists and we're very focused on technology as well. But I love to see those impacts on overall business outcomes also. From a manufacturing and distribution businesses, they often have broad, complex customer bases, as you'll be well aware. Alan, how are you using data and content to personalize at scale at NHP?
It's very interesting that you say that. So oftentimes when we're talking to customers and other Sitecore partners about our business, we start with our breadth of customer. So it's a very complex customer base. It's partially because of history, partially because of the breadth of products and services that we sell and support. We sell to a lot of different customer types who have a lot of different needs. And many times, some of our customers will value add to our products and then on-sell those in some other form to more of our customers. So, whether we're talking about electrical wholesalers, switchboard builders, systems integrators, OEMs, we may also be talking to their customers. So it's sometimes a little complex for us to navigate. But we'd always captured information and data on user interactions, but we didn't really use it to alter the experience of that customer. And I mentioned before that so many of them have different needs. So now with XM Cloud and some of the work that we've been doing and will continue to do into the future, we're tailoring the content based on the customer types and the needs of the persona. So rather than doing product-led marketing, we're now doing what does the customer need and making sure that they get that. So, some examples could be customer channel or segment-based homepages. So we now have 7 homepages that you'll see different variants depending on who you are. And those are tailored to, to the needs of that customer. Some of them may be pre-sales product information and others might just be, well, where is my product that I've already ordered? So we make sure that we make that as accessible as possible.
It's interesting we've talked about personalization, being the promise of personalization for many years in marketing, but it's great to see that impact really filtering down into businesses like manufacturers, like distributors as well, because like you say, that the breadth of products is so large, you do need that personalization for those different customer types, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And I mentioned a little bit earlier about opening the feedback loop for customers. Unless you really understand what it is that they need, you can't tailor their experience. Otherwise, you're telling the customer what they want rather than asking them what they want and delivering that.
Yeah. Let's shift to composable and composability. How has that kind of shift to a composable architecture changed your approach to digital operations, Robbie?
We might answer this in 2 ways. So I'll try and answer more from a tech perspective, and then Al might chime in with some customer stuff here. So I think some of the things around shifting to composable from a technology perspective, you really need to start to think differently. One of the other things that we tried to do, and one of the other feedback that we had from the constant upgrades that we were doing, it was very long and there was lots of turnaround time for our marketing team to maybe get something that they didn't quite have. We had to develop something. So first thing foremost now is we really try to think autonomy. So making sure that we've got that self-sufficiency in mind once we hand something over to our marketing team so they can actually do their marketing without needing developers to do that and turnaround cycle. I think you also need to think a lot more broadly now because composable solutions rely on many other systems and solutions to work together as one. So you can't just think about that one little piece anymore. You need to think about the entire puzzle. Reusability too, a bit to the autonomy bit, but making sure that we're building things no matter what channel we use, with that consistency in mind. So just making sure the customer can get that same experience, doesn't matter which channel they're coming through, and really making sure that we're thinking about the outcome we're trying to achieve as we're building these things now. And there's a real focus on how we sort of measure the success and embed that sort of thinking whilst we build and adjust when necessary.
And from I guess, Alan, if you want to expand on that from a customer perspective or marketing lens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and Robbie touched on so many points that they've improved our processes within the business that the customers are starting to see as well. And, a lot of it is being able to respond faster, experimenting in production rather than having to put everything through lower environments. The delivery cycle and our ability to adapt has shrunk right back. So we're definitely making some changes, and Robbie touched on a lot of those within the business that do flow through to the customer. And we're really starting to see the impacts of that now. Whether it's our ability to turn a marketing campaign around in a super quick time frame because our marketers are able to do that work in production without having to put things through lower environments, or the ability to implement things like A/B testing to really gather data about what's working with our customers and how can we make sure that we're reaching them in the way that they want to be. And we're seeing a lot of business improvements, but the feedback from customers as well as the stats that we're getting on some of these initiatives, it's showing that it's working.
And what ways, from an XM Cloud perspective, are you seeing that agility increase, and how does that unlock almost like a digital dream team across marketing, IT, and sales? Or is that too much of a stretch?
No, it's not too much of a stretch. I don't think we're starting to see some of that. And certainly what we're now able to leverage off the Sitecore suite, as well as our CRM and marketing tools, is really creating that digital ecosystem for us. And the combination of all of those systems put together is really showing us the huge potential that we now have, and we're unlocking more and more ways to gain insights and add real true value to our customers.
I mean, it's probably no surprise to anybody that our marketing team and our IT team haven't always worked together all that well. I mean, they have different goals, different drivers, so it's probably not that unusual, but that's definitely changing, we're seeing. So by virtue of us having XM Cloud and the different ways of working, now we work as one. So during the XM Cloud implementation, we really understood the value of designing and building for things like flexibility, reusability, personalization, what have you. And so now all of that discussion happens beforehand. The designers are involved with our developers during refinement, and that flows all the way through to testing and deployment. So that's really helping us to develop less and market more as a business. With the insights and the leads being gathered, IT sales pretty excited about how marketing is going to be enhancing their efforts.
We absolutely love to hear that, because I think that's almost like a misconception that you're almost proving as well, is from a history perspective, it's almost like a misconception now that these teams are not actually working together. I think we're starting to see that a lot at Sitecore at our large customer events and prospect events like Sitecore Symposium. We talk to technical teams as well, and they're laser focused on making the marketing and sales teams effective. And I think that's a huge shift for a lot of businesses. You talked about some of those benefits. What are some of the most underrated or surprising wins that you've seen since adopting Sitecore Stack?
So one of the first ones we stumbled across was really when we implemented Discover for our product search. We had a lot of noise previously around the way our search was bringing results up, that they were not always right, not showing the right products and all those sorts of things. But now, searching for the most relevant products just become much easier. And now in the process of actually moving from Discover into Sitecore Search, so we'll be able to enhance our search experience even better. It'll be more beyond products as well. So all the other things that we want to surface, we're going to be able to do that much easily in Sitecore Search.
Really nice to see. Any other surprising wins that you've seen over the past while?
One of my favorite ones, I've really noticed a huge uplift in what I call the digital acumen of staff who aren't technically or generally involved with the website or IT directly. So, product managers are really involved in how their products look on the website. They're sort of shifting their focus to the documentation and the brochures and thinking, well, how do I make sure that my customer can find my product in the fastest possible way and with, few roadblocks. So that's really good for them to see and to get involved in that. And it's not just the product managers. Customer service are promoting the use of the website to customers. so that they can find information. Essentially, the information that we have is the information that they have. We try and make sure that they understand that they can get that at their fingertips. I've even getting suggestions for improvements to the website coming from sales reps, which is encouraging if you don't mind.
And I think the other thing is we're actually just getting good old plain feedback from our customers, right? They like what we're doing. So, Alan talked before about, the customer feedback loop, and we do take that very seriously. And generally the feedback you get on your website or being, in IT is always negative. So we're getting plenty of positive feedback, either, directly from customers or, from sales reps saying the customers are really starting to utilize the platform a lot more.
Love to hear that. From a digital asset management perspective, what role do you see that playing in your digital experience evolution?
We've been able to really enable the storage and delivery of a lot more content and variants of that content. So now we can serve up to our customers the content that they want to see. So that's speed to market, getting better insights on what content's working better or worse is also really important. So, the more that we can do that, the ability for our customers to be able to choose the right product, get greater support, whether it's during pre or post sales, and just having that single source of the truth. And now we can actually trust that our customers are getting the right information that they need when they need it to be utilized.
Even within the business, I'm noticing that business stakeholders really wanting to put their assets, documents, information into the dam because they can see the benefit of making this as available as possible to anyone who wants it. So we've had, I think we called it a hackathon, where our engineers spent a period of time gathering as many of these assets as they possibly could and getting them into the dam. The other part of that is, all right, well, how do we make sure that we're surfacing those in the right way? So it did create a little bit of work for IT to catch up. But I think that the end result is something like 3,000 new assets put into the dam in that period of time. So there's certainly a drive within the business, which is really good to see.
Yeah, I love to hear those implementations, especially where your product set is as wide and as diverse as it would be in NHP. Let's shift the focus to what's next and what we call our visionary section of the interview here. Looking ahead for both of you, what do you think the digital customer experience is going to look like for manufacturers and distributors over the next couple of years?
I think a big thing for us is really removing the roadblocks and that friction between customers being able to choose the right products and us understanding where they are in their purchasing cycle as well. And that's something really, especially from a digital point of view, we haven't been able to do that. But now we can really sort of gain insights to what they're looking at on the website, who they're talking to from a sales perspective. That's something that we really want to continue to do and learn and get better at that sort of stuff. And it's also expanding our reach sort of to customers who might not directly purchase with us, but they might be the ultimate decision maker. And how do we get the right information to them in the right hands? And then how do we sort of leverage that information to actually assist them in making their purchase decisions?
For me, it's really about transparency. So transparency in information, in communication, and also in capabilities. It's making sure that the customers, and I sort of touched on this a little bit earlier, making sure the customers have the same information that we do at the same time. So we're not withholding anything from the customer. But not only that, making sure that we're communicating with them in a proactive manner so that there's no curveballs thrown their way, but also building the tools to allow them to perform the same actions that we do as well. So putting all the controls in the hands of the user, because that helps them feel better supported, especially through the later parts of the sales cycle.
And how do you see the manufacturing space? Do you see that moving more towards almost like a consumer or a B2C e-commerce type experience in terms of purchasing? Is that something you're thinking about at NHP as well?
Yeah, look, that's an interesting one, because oftentimes I have the conversation with people, do B2B customers expect a B2C experience? And the answer is kind of yes and no. In some way they do, because they want to be able to do all the things themselves, but there's a lot more to a B2B transaction and a relationship than that. So just giving that Amazon experience is not going to be anywhere near enough.
Yeah, I think, that's the challenge with, especially in our industry. And Alan talked about types of customers we have and how diverse they are. And it's not even that, it's the people then who work within those industries as well. There's different needs for different people, and just making sure that we can deliver all of that is a challenge.
Yeah, it's interesting, I think, in that regard, because I think everybody from the outside in would think that people want to move towards that type of a model. But I think a lot of times the value add, right, is in those relationships you have with those kind of complex needs that you can tease out with the customer, right?
Yeah, by all means. And I think that the work that we're doing in the MarTech and IT and digital space is really there to try and support and enhance and uplift the efforts of our sales and marketing teams. So, it's removing some of the noise so that they're able to do what they do best, so that they can build the relationships, so that they can handle the complex inquiries, and so that they can essentially answer the sort of questions and make the kind of connections for the customers that a website may not be capable of doing.
Let's move the conversation on to AI. It's obviously the biggest trend of 2025 and beyond. How do you envision the role of AI evolving in manufacturing digital experience and personalization?
There's so many topics we could sort of cover here around that, but I think some of the key ones for us is really sort of getting some real-time metrics and real-time recommendations on what our customers are doing on the site, what they're looking at, and then how we can help them with their decisions. There's so many ways that we can put products together, especially when we're custom building, and we do that. That's being the manufacturing side of our organisation. All that data that we do have now is how do we actually really tap in that, find the trends, look at the opportunities, and how do we really harness those insights. That's pretty hard for a human to really understand. So hopefully AI can help us do that. And some of the, I suppose, more real life examples that we think that we can do, as I said before, we do build products for customers and sort of made to order. And there is a cycle that goes around about making sure that the specifications are right and it's meeting the outcomes and those sorts of things. So even using AI to help making drawing improvements in the CAD drawings that need to be done as the customer is building that with us, right? As we're going through that iteration process, different part recommendations, sort of aligning and I suppose making our processes much more efficient and sort of trying to get it right earlier.
One area, I guess, that I can see being applied is, we've spoken about personalization, but AI can allow for hyper personalization. And we talked a little bit about B2B versus B2C before, and in a B2C environment, sometimes just knowing your customer's product affinities is enough to move the needle, and to move the needle quite drastically. But in a complex B2B market, you really need to understand and adjust for a user's role within their business. So it's not just this customer is a contractor, but this person is an estimator who works for a contractor. So what is it that they need? In that particular case, they're primarily pre-sales rather than post-sales. So they're more interested in making sure that they can find the right product for their project, which is also going to be at the right price, and we can deliver it at the right time. Whereas, others within that same company are going to be more interested in the post-sales, whether that be, the transport side of things or product management side of their project. So, it really is understanding that, which AI can very much help with from all of the data that we collect from the customers and from our CRM. And obviously the other side of that is building an environment framework that can adapt to that as AI comes back with its insights.
And I guess continuing on that theme, if you had unlimited budget, no legacy constraints, what digital capability would you invest in next?
Technology has moved so fast in the last 5 or 10 years. And so we all been able to adopt to it. The obvious answer is use more AI. But if I think about it, I think the biggest investment that we could do is really invest in our people and using all the advantages that we have now within technology to reimagine, I suppose, how we could use the technology capability we now have to do things differently, to be able to adapt quicker. We take time to do the redo all the time right now. We had gone back a few years and known what we know now and applied that. I think we could do things a hell of a lot quicker, building that real solid foundation. And we do have a really solid foundation, don't get me wrong, but I think knowing what we know now 5 years ago would have been a hell of an advantage.
I love that insight, because I think you're touching on something that's so important with technology in general, which is that the strategy, having that in place initially, figuring out what the methodology needs to be to implement, and then focusing on the technology. I think so many businesses will focus on the technology first, and it's so easy for us to do that as a company as well, to focus on the technology. We sell software, we sell technology, but unless you're really figuring out how it's impacting your employees, your customers, setting those foundations in place, I think that's the real value add is here. And then the technology just runs as you want it to. Alan, anything you would add to that point?
No, I think I like the conversation point about the tech shouldn't come first. And it just sort of makes me think about a lot of the conversations we have about prospective initiatives or developments or, epics that have been proposed. Oftentimes the conversation starts with tech. What is it that we need to build to achieve a particular outcome? And especially in the last year or so, those conversations quickly get steered, whether it's by us or whether it's by the executives or whoever it is that's involved there. That conversation gets steered towards people first, then process, and then technology. And we find in a lot of cases, it's really helping with our development front log, because a lot of those can be achieved with people or process changes rather than going straight to tech. But by the time that something makes it into the front log, we know that the technology is going to add to those changes that have already been made within the people's approach or our processes before we get to the tech.
Great insight there. Gentlemen, let's take this to the lightning round. We've got some quick fire questions for you about manufacturing. What's the biggest myth about digital and distribution and manufacturing?
I think it has to be that customers don't want digital, that they would prefer to have somebody in front of them. I think that they want both. They want it all and they want it now.
Love that. What XM Cloud in one word?
Agility.
Yes. We did not prepare this question before, I promise. Personalization, game changer or table stakes?
As a game changer, absolutely. If you're going to be customer first, then you've got to go all in.
What's the next big thing you're watching in customer experience and digital experience tech?
I think for us, it's collaborative ecosystems. So for us to be able to provide optimized and ways that we can sort of navigate through our complex supply chains to enhance that sort of value proposition to our customers.
If your digital stack were a power tool, which would it be and why?
An oscillating multi-tool. It can handle a variety of tasks easily and anyone can use it. It's the one-stop shop.
That is absolutely fantastic and a really nice way of plugging Sitecore also, I would say, which is really cool. Guys, Alan and Robbie, thanks so much for your insights into the digital future of manufacturing. Your journey with XM Cloud is a really powerful reminder that innovation doesn't just live in consumer tech. It's alive and thriving in industries like yours in manufacturing and distribution. I think for anybody navigating digital complexity in B2B, this conversation is full of actionable perspective to stay curious, stay agile, and keep building what's next. Allen Rigby, Robbie Attard, thanks so much for joining me today.
Very much, Sean.
Thank you. Thanks, Sean.